Welcome back to our second episode. We spoke all about the algorithms, how it works, and our feeds in the last episode. So for this episode, we're going to talk about our communities and conversations that we have online and sometimes the troubles that can come with it. We know sometimes not all connections and communities can be healthy and nice. How can we tell the difference between a healthy and nice connection, friendship with someone online and a not so healthy one?
I think generally it comes down to, how that relationship is making you feel. If you're in a community particularly where there's a lot of toxicity, right, where it's not about supporting people, building people up, giving people tools for helping them deal with issues, just like lightening things and enjoying life and finding ways to do that. If it's about like always dragging things down, or there's a lot of jokes that are punching down to minority groups or to particular people in the group, those kind of things are indicators that it's not a great community. There are ways that you can change that if it's a small friend group as your community. If it's a much bigger community though and it's quite negative and quite toxic, that's going to be a lot more difficult to change because the social norms of that environment are a particular way. So what the social norms are like the unwritten rules, right? So when you go into a community space, the unwritten rules might be that everyone's nice to each other, right? And if you're not nice, somebody says something to you or you might get moderated. There's other environments, like there's certain communities on like Reddit, for example, that if you go into it, the rule seems to be just do not be nice to anybody. And so it will be very hard to change that. So if you're in quite a nice environment, a nice community, and one or two people start bringing in more negative stuff, you got to tackle that pretty early so that the social norms stay as nice and polite and like supportive and positive. So it's not necessarily about, you can talk about things that aren't positive. So if it's an activist group, it might be, looking at the problems that people are experiencing. So that's not always positive, but it's how you approach it and how you talk to each other within it and how respectful you are of each other. All those kind of things are really important.
And having kind of like an open mind when you approach those type of conversations and the language you use when you're talking about it. And we see that a lot in DMs and group chats. Is there any like specific red flags that people should look out for when it becomes toxic?
I think, so it depends on the context, what the red flags might be. If it's something like romantic relationships, right? So this could be in just text messages with someone that you're interested in or a partner or in online dating, for example. If someone's pushing boundaries, that can be a real problem. So that might be someone, like in online dating, the example that I always use is if you say you want to meet someone like at a cafe for coffee, because you want to meet somewhere public, you don't know this person, and they've agreed, or they've tried to push and say, oh no, come to my place. Or they've agreed and they said, yeah, coffee. And then last minute they go, actually, I don't really feel like going for coffee, come to my place. They're trying to push you to see, will you cross your boundary about what's important to you, about looking after your safety? Because they know that if you do, they can push more boundaries with you, right? So that would be a red flag for me. Also things like jokes that aren't really funny, so racism, homophobia, those kinds of jokes. Like sometimes people are looking to see if you'll go along with them. So they know what they can and can't say to you and what's acceptable to you. So if someone does that and you kind of laugh along, then the next time they're going to do more and more and more. So kind of cutting that off at the start can be quite good. You could just not respond if you're uncomfortable responding. But if you feel comfortable to go, don't love that, or did you really say that out loud? Or something like that, to try and kind of make them reflect on what they're saying and know that it's not acceptable there. So yeah, those kinds of things, like things that make you feel uncomfortable, things that don't make you feel good about yourself. So if someone's putting you down, like there's ways where we might get feedback from somebody. So if we have a friendship and there's something our friend is doing that isn't great, there's ways to approach that where you can still maintain the friendship and you're still being respectful, rather than going, oh, you're such a bitch. I hate you.
So kind of theme I'm getting is like boundaries. Making your boundaries very clear, setting them, and if someone steps over that line, to make it clear that to make it clear that there's a line.
Exactly. And boundaries aren't about saying, that somebody else has to do something. Your boundary is saying, I will accept this behavior, but if you do this behavior, then I no longer want to take part in this relationship. So if you continue to talk to me in that way, which is really disrespectful, really rude, or puts me down, then this isn't a friendship that I want to have. So you're not saying you have to do anything. Because if they change their behavior, if they're nice to you, then you can continue the relationship. If they're not, you just remove yourself from the relationship. You're not saying you have to change. They can keep being horrible, but you're just not going to listen to it anymore. So I think sometimes people get that mixed up with boundaries. It's like this person has to do this thing, and that's not quite it.
And do you have any tips for someone to step away without drama? Because I know a lot of times when you say no, you're not comfortable. People think that a fight has to come out of it, that there's going to be drama, it's going to be a big blowout. Is there ways to do it respectfully where you can step back and have no drama?
Yeah, I think being really, really clear before you say anything, before you send a message, oftentimes this is best done offline rather than online. So online, we're missing a lot of the information. So we're face-to-face, we have all the body language, non-verbal cues. So you can see that I'm smiling, you can see my tone of, or you can see my tone of voice, you can hear my tone of voice, you can see my facial expression. So you know what I'm meaning by the words. And I can also see your reaction. So I know that you've picked up what I'm saying in the right way. Online, we don't have any of that. And so you're trying to interpret what somebody's saying. And we use things like emojis and all caps and exclamation marks and all these kinds of things and GIFs to kind of give some of the emotional tone. But it's much easier to misunderstand things. And so if you have that kind of misunderstanding, or if you think somebody has crossed a boundary or is being disrespectful, it's better to check in first and make sure that you didn't just read it. Like sometimes we read a message in a tone of voice in our head that they never intended. Like we're not in a good mood and we read it, we're like, why are they so angry at me? But they weren't angry. They just sent you a short message. Or accidentally put a full stop at the end.
That makes me overthink so much. I'm like, oh no, do they hate me?
So it's good to take that offline and check. And as well, when you're trying to give feedback about why you want to remove yourself, maybe formulating exactly what you want to say, and then not engaging in a lot of drama. If somebody wants to bring that in, you just go, I said my thing, I'm good now.
If it's a strictly online relationship, you know, some people halfway across the world, they can't meet up. Would you recommend maybe sending voice notes, phone calls? Is there a different way to go about handling that?
I think I would. Even though voice notes are still missing the face-to-face bit, with tone of voice, you can get a lot more in. And somebody can't, it's harder to deliberately misinterpret it as well. Or a video call or something like that is a bit better than just text. Text is easier to misinterpret.
And when we're in group chats, if we see kind of drama starting to brew, our friends in a little bit of trouble, someone's being unkind to them, how can we support them by being like an active bystander but not getting too involved?
So I think approaching it from like, if I was in that situation, what would I like, right? So, and you know your friend quite well, and so you might know what they would like. Approaching them behind the scenes is important to find out if they're okay, if they'd like you to do anything, to intervene, if they want you to comment and say, hey, that's not okay, just like, what the hell? And also, if it's something quite serious, it depends on the level, right? So if it's something a little bit mean and you're like, why are we doing this? Then you might have a conversation with the person who did it out of the group to say, that's not really great. Like, why are you okay today? Like, are you not in a good mood today? Because that was not great. That doesn't seem like you. If it's someone who's continuously doing that, that's a little bit different. You might have a conversation with a few people in the group that you know don't like that kind of behavior to say, well, like, how do we address this? But if it's something more serious, so if it's actually bullying, it's happening consistently, don't be afraid to get help. To ask somebody, so a trusted adult, or even a friend that you can talk to that you know is like quite sensible and can think things through clearly without causing more drama, but preferably a trusted adult. Take screenshots in case it is more serious, because you don't know what else is going on behind the scenes necessarily. Report it, if it's on social media, report really awful comments to the platform itself. But also, in certain circumstances, it's really important to report it to somebody else, whether that's the guards or to a parent or another trusted adult, whether that's a teacher, you know, an aunt, an uncle, somebody that you feel like you can talk to, that you can trust, and that will listen to you without just freaking out. Can be quite useful.
And when can you tell that it's gone over the line? Because I know we spoke earlier about overthinking. You know, they could put a full stop in and then I'm like,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how can you actually tell that it's gone too far and that I need to take those steps to protect myself?
So, you've got it, like things like meanness, right? Where someone's just not being very nice to somebody, but it maybe happens once or twice, it's not all the time. Where it gets into bullying is usually where there's some sort of power imbalance. That might be social power, it might be age, it could be there's various different ways that power can come about. It might be the number of people they have on their side. You've got that power imbalance, and then it's happening repeatedly. So you're seeing someone consistently getting put down, or the joke's on them all the time, those kinds of things, or excluded. Like, there's so many different ways that can happen. And if you think about being that person, it would feel awful, that it would be a horrible experience. That's where it's crossed the line into bullying. Harassment's a little bit different, because that can be once off, or abuse. It can be one awful thing that happens, and that can be as bad as something consistent if it's bad enough. So if somebody shares really embarrassing pictures, like really embarrassing pictures, not just like you making a silly face, but if they share embarrassing pictures all the time, of every picture they share, it's like, look how stupid you look, then that's bullying territory. But if they do something really bad once, then that's enough to also be a problem and worth reporting as well. So it's judging based on how often this is happening, what's the relationship between the people, are other people joining in as well? Because if more people are liking it or sharing it or commenting on it, going, haha, funny, then that's worse again for the person.
It's like ganging up on the person.
Yeah.
We see that a lot in group chats.
Yeah. It can be quite a problem. And it can happen because people might behave in ways that they wouldn't because of online disinhibition, which sounds fancy, but it basically just means, so when we drink alcohol, our inhibitions get lowered. We're more likely to do things that we wouldn't when we're not drinking. Similarly, but differently, when we're online, obviously it's not a chemical interaction in our brain lowering our inhibitions, can't get the words out, but being online, there's a whole bunch of different factors that interact to make us behave in ways that are more heightened than offline. So the fact that in some spaces you're anonymous can play a part in it, not always. But the fact that you're invisible and the other person's invisible can make you forget that they're a real person with real feelings. You can't see their reaction when you say something to them. And so you might say something that you wouldn't offline because you can't see the hurt on their face. But also, if there's an in-group, out-group dynamic, it's one of the most basic things in social psychology, and it can make people cause harm even when the groups are completely arbitrary. You just choose them based on eye color, for example. But if it's something like, if you think about football teams, supporters of one of the or the other, how awful they can be to each other sometimes, because they get caught up in the in-group, out-group dynamic of, I belong to this team and you belong to that team, and so you're all awful people and we're all the best. And that starts to become more important than your own individual values. So getting caught up in that kind of stuff online can happen quite a lot. And it happens to some people more than others. So if you're more short-tempered, if you're more don't have a strong self-control, then you're more likely to say things or behave in ways online that you wouldn't offline. It's why the comment sections are often so terrible under people's posts.
It's like a layer of protection in front of you.
Exactly.
And gives you this confidence to do something that you wouldn't really do in real life.
Yeah.
And how can we ensure that we don't forget our own values? Because sometimes it can be so easy to just go along with what a group's doing, go along with the group chat, go along with the negativity in the comments. Is there a way to make sure you stick to your values and your morals?
I think when you're really involved in something like that, you forget who you are. So you don't have somebody looking at you. So you forget your public self-consciousness.
Yeah.
So when we know other people are looking at us, we act in a particular way that aligns with how we want people to see us. But also when you're really involved in something online, we lose our private self-consciousness, which is us looking at ourselves, judging ourselves based on our own values. And when both of those are gone, we might start acting like the group rather than like ourselves, because we forget about our own individual values. So when you're in a group chat conversation, when you see something like that, basically what I do before I post anything, before I hit send on anything, anywhere, I take one breath and go, is this the right way I want to say this? Do I want to send this? Silence is an option here. Is silence a better option? Just for a moment before I send anything. And most of the time it's fine, but every now and then I'll go, you know what? that doesn't need to be said, or that doesn't need to be said that way. I could rephrase that in a better way. And I think that's a really good approach for so many reasons, right? It stops you impulse buying sometimes because you take one moment to go, do I actually want this? It stops you falling for scams. So before you click on something, you go, should I be clicking on this? Like a whole bunch of different things. Just that little pause before you do something, just for like 2 or 3 seconds.
Like a moment of reflection.
A moment of reflection, yeah. And the more you do it, the more that becomes habit. And you stop getting involved in those dog piles. You don't chime in along with everybody else. You think, why would I do that? That doesn't make sense. That's not me.
Because we're so connected with other people online, with that comes FOMO. And I experience it a lot. I know a lot of my friends experience it. How can we navigate FOMO in a healthy way?
It is tricky because like we have so much information, right? When I was young, I didn't have that information about what people were doing. So if they didn't tell me they'd done something, I didn't know. But on Snapchat maps, you can see where people are. You can see they're together and you're not there. You can see photographs of people being out together, all those kind of things. And that does make it more difficult because you're wondering, like, did they accidentally meet or did they leave me out? But one of the things that we know about it is that it's related to using social media a lot to like almost a problematic extent because it makes you go in and check all the time to see what you're missing, which isn't necessarily healthy. I think we have to know that, you know, people will do things by themselves. They'll have smaller outgroups of friends, they'll accidentally bump into people and do something together. And that doesn't necessarily have to be interpreted as they have left me out deliberately. It's more, these two people want to talk about this particular thing, they're doing that, that's grand, but I have my relationship with them as well. We sometimes do that together as well. That other person, we're not leaving them out for a specific reason, it's just because of this. So it's kind of about the way that we talk to ourselves about the information that we get and how we interpret it. And maybe looking at like why we think that that might be something deliberate. So if that's how we interpret all that information, is that a problem where we feel like we're not worthy in that friendship group? Or maybe they're not treating us well. Maybe we are being excluded. Is that a possibility? And what does that mean about this friendship? And do I want to be in a friendship group like that? So it's kind of looking at what's actually going on rather than panicking every time you see that and trying to interpret it in the worst possible way, which is like difficult sometimes. I know if people are like struggling with anxiety and things like that, it can be the kind of natural inclination is to do that and to overthink it. But one thing like, you know, rumination, which is where you're thinking about something over and over again, just in a circle, it never gets resolved. If you do that all the time, that's not really good for your well-being because you're just continuously processing it without ever getting anywhere.
It's like an ongoing cycle.
Yeah. So talking to somebody about it, whether it's one of the friends or somebody else, another trusted person or friend, to say, I can't stop thinking about this thing. Like, do you know anything about it? Am I being insane here? Like, what? Like, is there another way I can look at this? So that you can just talk it out and go, you know what? They went and got coffee. That's fine. Like.
And do you recommend, if you're going through that tough time, maybe taking a social media break, maybe staying off online?
It could be useful because it stops that constant feed of information that's feeding your anxiety. Because we do know that it can do that because there is so much information. The same in like relationships, like romantic relationships. You have so much information, you see your partner like something, you're like, why did they like that? And it's just like, they just liked a thing, you know? So yeah, sometimes that can feed an insecurity, and so taking a break from social media can be useful, and talking to somebody can be really, really useful in a situation like that.
Thank you so much for chatting with me this episode. I think we all learned lots and lots, and we can't wait for the next episode. Stay tuned.